Hello and welcome along to the On the Whistle podcast. I'm your host, Zayn Nabbi. Joining me today is the one and only Courtney Freese. We're going to chop it up. We're going to talk about 5 African players that you need to watch this season. Courtney's done. He's broke it down. He's the man you want to hear from more than me, a former Premier Soccer League winner, a man who's going to play football tonight, and a consistent winner of the Spirit Cup Award because of his ability to inspire and motivate others. Courtney, how are you doing, fella?
Zayn, I am absolutely on top of it. It's during the school holidays at the moment, so I couldn't be more happy. The weather's perfect. And you're right, I'm playing football this evening. I can't wait.
Cool. Well, before you head onto the field and, play like the Philippe Lam-esque defender you were, or Thiago Silva.
No. Philippe Lam was perfect. Lam was perfect.
Fabio Cannavaro, I don't know, Chiellini, Barzagli, we got so many here we can go with. Oh, wait, I got one. Beckenbauer.
Well, Zayn, I think he could fit into my ability.
Well, listen, Courtney, the football season is well and truly underway. Boy, oh boy, is it good to be back. Somebody that I know I'll be following very closely is Sadio Mane. I'm a big fan of him off the field and on the field. He obviously was at Bayern last season after moving from Liverpool. It was a club where I know we all spoke about hopefully him being the man with Lewandowski leaving, him getting his love, him getting his flowers, and him getting an opportunity to sign. There was a knee injury before the World Cup, and then there was that incident with Leroy Sané, which saw him subsequently fined, apologized, suspended, and clearly things were not good from there with him, the team, and Thomas Tuchel. Now he's moved to ALNassr in Saudi Arabia, one of the big name signings. He'll be playing alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, who is the club captain of that team. Tell me, Courtney, a man with still a lot of potential, what are you looking forward to seeing this season with Mane?
Well, before we touch on what we're looking at in the next season, he firstly had to move. Okay. He was at Bayern. He had the incident, as you've just touched on. He actually didn't do too bad at Bayern. For 36 games, 13 goals, he actually didn't do that bad. First move. Would they have expected more from him? Yes. But the incident with Sané means he has to now move. Now he goes into ALNassr. He's alongside Cristiano Ronaldo. I just think they've got a player who is at the peak of his ability still. He's not diminishing. And I think Ronaldo has an assistant to catapult ALNassr into the top of the table. He's a fantastic player, looks after himself well, works exceptionally hard, and has already started making an impact in Saudi Arabia.
We certainly hope that he will pick up. Obviously, the SPL has a lot of big name signings. It's a league I know we'll probably be following a lot more with interest, waiting to see these big names go. My final question is, do you think, on Mane rather, do you think we could see him return to Europe one day, or is this sort of where you think he'll see out the rest of his career? Big money, burgeoning league, less pressure.
Zayn, that's a hard one. What is happening in Saudi Arabia at the moment has never happened before. And they've taken these players into this new league, and they want to make this league bigger than any other league at the moment. I cannot see players leaving that league to go anywhere else. The remuneration that's been offered to these players is unbelievable. So players at the moment have the opportunity to end their careers in a thriving league that is high also in competitiveness. And there's a lot of world-class players who are also young, i.e. example, Ruben Neves had left Wolves that went there. So it's not a league for people, old statesmen, to go to. So I don't think he'll come back, Zayn. And if I was him and if I was in his camp, I'd be thinking, don't ever go back.
Sure. He's 31. There's still a few good seasons there. We've seen Ronaldo, Messi have a lot of longevity in their careers. Mane's fit, he's strong, and somebody I think will certainly keep going on. Great engine on him. I got to ask you about his former teammate, one Mo Salah. You're a Liverpool man, the Pietermaritzburg Scouser sitting opposite me.
There we go.
Salah last season, if I'm correct, was fourth on the goal scoring charts with 19 goals for Liverpool. Ivan Toney at Brentford at 20, Harry Kane, who's now gone to Bayern Munich at 30, Erling Haaland, irrepressible last season with 36. What can we expect from Mo, who himself has been linked with moves to the Saudi Premier League? His agent saying not going to happen. But what do you expect for him as a Liverpool fan, as an expert on African football?
Well, Zayn, I think we're going to expect more of the same from Mohamed Salah. I think he's an absolute fantastic player that is very underappreciated. I'm not going to. I must say that the stats that he has over the seasons he's been at Liverpool, any striker would be jumping for joy with those statistics. In Liverpool's worst performing season under Jurgen Klopp, since Klopp has come to that club, Mohamed Salah got 19 goals. That's not even coupled with the assists he's got. 19 goals. So he's broken Robbie Fowler's record last season, and he continues to break records. I think all you've got to expect from Mohamed Salah is highly professional, fantastic work ethic, goals and assists. Just those four things, nothing more. It'll be more of the same as last season. As soon as Liverpool make further acquisitions in midfield that allow him to be a bit more penetrative, I think he'll just be filling his bag with goals again. It's a similar question to Harry Kane. What do you expect from Harry Kane? Goals. That's it.
So, would Salah be in your fantasy football league team?
He would be, if I could afford him.
There we go.
If I could afford him, even when his powers were like, if people say he only got 19 goals last season, think of when a winger's got 19 goals. Okay, so forget the 34, forget the 40, forget the 28, forget all of those. Go back to when a winger's got 19 goals, Zayn. All right, you couldn't pick out a winger here. Go back to Ryan Giggs, go back to Mark Walters, go back to John Barnes. None of them were getting those statistics and those assists.
No, fair point.
So
more of the same for Salah then.
More of the same for Salah, but just the problem with Mohamed Salah I have, Zayn, he is highly undervalued.
Well,
and that
listen,
gets to me.
Sure. And what would you say to those who doubt his ability and undervalue?
Well, I don't think you can fix broken, Zayn. So if I'm having to convince you that Mohamed Salah is possibly one of the best players in the world in his position, if I'm having to convince you that Mohamed Salah is possibly Liverpool's greatest player ever, if I'm having to convince you that Mohamed Salah is possibly Africa's greatest player ever, then I don't know what do I need to say to you. There's people out there that say, well, he only scores goals. No, he doesn't. He's got a lot of assists, and goals win games. Not assists. Goals win games.
Sure. I was going to go, I feel like one George Weah, one Didier Drogba, one Samuel Eto'o, one Yaya Toure might say that they have the claim as the greatest African.
Oh, no, absolutely. Those are world-class players as well. Fantastic. Measure the goals, man. Measure the goals for a winger. We're talking about wingers here, all right? George Weah, out-and-out striker. Samuel Eto'o, out-and-out striker. Didier Drogba, out-and-out striker. Talk to me about a winger that's 5'6", 5'7", plays in the toughest league in the world and gets goals after goals. And here's the other thing. He's hardly ever injured, Zayn.
Sure. I agree. Let's keep the convo going. We're going to keep it in the Premier League. Someone who had an incredible season last year was Nayef Aguerd, the West Ham defender, won the Europa Conference League with the team, a linchpin of that West Ham back four. And let us not forget, was a part of the Moroccan team that had a deep run at the World Cup and made the semis. Tell me, you've picked him as somebody to watch this season. Has he not perhaps peaked as a matter of what happened last season, or do you think there's a little bit more in the tank there?
What I will say to you, Zayn, is that when I picked him out as a player, I just thought to myself that, firstly, he's got all the attributes. If you look at his height and if you look at, he just is a fantastic central defender. Then he goes into a team like West Ham where there's a lot of turbulence defensively, plays 19 games, 5 clean sheets, and they do exceptionally well from a defensive point of view when there are no set partners. He comes up with a lot of credit. I feel that scouts have been quite lazy at the moment. I feel if Harry Maguire does make the transition into West Ham, he'll be a good partner for him as well. I think he's a fantastic central defender. And then I think the icing on the cake, Zayn, is what he did at the World Cup. Yes, there was a fantastic group of players, absolute fantastic group of players. He had a very good defensive midfielder. Oh, I hate that role, Zayn. I wish you could talk to me about that role before we go. I wish you could. But he had a fantastic defensive midfielder in front of him, which allows defenders to be better. But
right, and Sofian Amrabat,
excellent at the World Cup.
So I was going to go. Let's not lose sight of what you were saying. You wanted to talk about defensive midfielders.
Well, Zayn, I think that's a silly position. I don't know what it
why
means.
is that?
I don't know what it means. At this point,
you don't know what it means.
I don't know what it means. I think
a holding midfielder. That's a defensive midfielder, isn't it?
So Zayn, where do people like Roy Keane, Steven Gerrard, Patrick Vieira, Brian Robson, Graham Souness, where do they fit into football then? Because they were midfielders that were able to do the defensive part as well as the attacking part. Okay,
you're box to box. All of a sudden,
right? You're talking about box to box midfielders. Midfielders could defend well and get forward and get back. Now all of a sudden you got midfielders who are going for silly amounts of money who do half the job. Okay, so you paying for more for less. All right, Declan Rice, he wouldn't get Arsenal. He wouldn't get Arsenal in his career at Arsenal. He wouldn't get 20 goals. He wouldn't. Moses Caicedo, you know, when Liverpool pulled out of that deal, Zayn, I couldn't be more happy. I could not be more happy. Last season, what was his goal scoring and assist rate, Zayn? 115 million pound defender, 1 goal, 1 assist. What use is he to me? What use is he to me?
But, you know, when you look at the history of the sport, whether it's Dunga, Fabinho, or the recent signing of
Deschamps.
Yeah, there was, like, you know, Makelele, I would argue, maybe was more defensive midfielder than box to box. You know, there's a history of this, Courtney. No, particularly in the right, if you're going to play the diamond formation.
Listen, Zayn, football evolves over times, and I firstly do understand the role. I understand the role, okay? But you couldn't sell me the role. You couldn't say to me, if I'm sitting in a boardroom with you and we are owners of a club, we need to go and buy a defensive midfielder for over 100 million. I would say you need to go and have your head checked. And certainly before you even go home, because you cannot pay so much money on a person who will not win you games. You can't. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. There's been given too much value to a role that does one specific thing. And I'll equate it to this, Zayn. In order for you to win a test match, Zayn, you got to take 20 wickets in a test match. You don't go into a test match with a bowler that can bowl and bowl a good line and takes no wickets. Listen, you got to take wickets to win a test match, but you're going to decide, I'm gonna take this bowler. He bowls a fantastic line. He takes absolutely no wickets. I need him. Of what use is he to you? You know, and if you listen to the greats, don't listen to me, you know. I never played football at that level, but listen to Graham Souness, listen to Roy Keane. The players that play in that role have to do more. They have to. They have to do more.
So, well, listen, it was great getting your analysis on that. And listen, if you're listening out there and you agree with Courtney about the defensive midfielder position, please hit us up on our social media accounts. OTW_podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube or you're joining our discussion on our Facebook page, you can find us at On the Whistle podcast. Really easy, really cool. Subscribe, like, and most importantly, join the discussion and tell us what you think. Now, Courtney, we're going to round it up because these are your top 5 players to watch. But it would be remiss with us not talking about the Women's World Cup. Somebody that shone for South Africa was Kgatlana, scored a great goal against Italy, spoke after the game how she'd lost 3 family members over the 2 weeks that she'd been out at the tournament. So incredible fortitude and ability to sort of channel in and focus on the football and use the passing as motivation. And somebody who was a star at Atletico Madrid, but now plies her trade in North America. Tell me, what do you expect from her this season in the women's game?
Well, Zayn, we just got to give this lady credit. Unbelievable credit for what she's had to overcome. Okay, after losing 3 family members, listen, losing 1 family member is a terrible thing, and in such a short period, it's a real travesty, coupled with an Achilles injury. That is a terrible injury footballers don't want. Footballers would rather take an ACL over an Achilles injury. Been out for a long time, comes back to perform at the World Cup like she's never left. What she provides, Zayn, is goals and defending from up top with a work rate that is second to none. So what are we expecting from her? We're expecting her to torment defenses and score goals. That's basically it, Zayn. And she does that comfortably. Tembi's not a big young lady, 27 years old, not very tall, but aggressive in effort and stature. Any defenders out there wouldn't want to play against Tembi. Sweden, who looks so confident throughout the World Cup, Argentina, who looked so confident, couldn't manage her. She was just unplayable.
Honestly, she made those Dutch defenders look like they had cement in their boots.
Well,
she was phenomenal. She was a one-person threat.
Yeah, Desiree was playing with almost one up top with supporting players around her.
100%. And that South African team had so many injuries at that point, right?
Absolutely. And she was carrying the team's attacking powers. I just think Tembi, firstly, is a model for any young girl wanting to get into football, the attitudes, overcoming adversity, and then playing exceptionally well. But like I said, you're answering your question very simply: goals and defensive tormentation.
100%.
Tormentation, is that a word, Zayn?
It's about to be. She's a tormentor, so she commits tormentation.
Oh, well, there you go. I think I'm not. I'll take all Bitcoin advantage to myself, please.
We'll put up PayPal now so they can send you the money there. Now, Courtney, we're rounding out your top 5 picks to watch this season. And in the MLS, we've seen St. Louis perform wonderfully well. They currently top the Western Conference. This new expansion team, Lutz Pfannenstein, the German being the man who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. And of course, South African Bradley Connell coaching the team. But there is a South African by the name of Njabulo Blom who has done outstandingly since joining the startup franchise. How has he performed to your mind?
Zayn, listen, firstly, with crediting Njabulo Blom, you got to credit Bradley Connell for his recruitment. You got to. Bradley found himself a diamond, gets him over to America. St. Louis is going into the MLS for the very first time. And Njabulo comes in halfway through the season and has just played as if he's always been there. What 16 games this kid has had. 23 years old, hard-running defender, very good player. There's someone who's on the verge of stabilizing himself in that league, and then Europe start looking at him because he is such a good player and has hit the ground running in the MLS. Normally there's this transition, traveling from one country to the next, the cultural aspect as well. But no, unaffected. So you
What
got
do
to
you
also
think his
pay
best
tribute.
position is, Courtney? Because he can play in the midfield and he can play in defense.
Well, they use him in multiple positions, and I think this is what, as I said, you got to pay credit to Bradley Cornell. They use him defensively, but they also use him in midfield as well. And because the kid has got an unbelievable engine, and when I talk about defensive midfielders, he's not a defensive midfielder. He's a midfielder that gets around, you know. So I just think a great recruitment acquisition. And I think there's so many quality players in South Africa. I just think that other places in the world need to start looking at them. You know, Sundowns are leading Africa at the moment, and players in South Africa wouldn't mind moving. There's a good example of Njabulo Blom that's doing wonderful in the MLS. Has played all 16 games since getting to the MLS as well. Fantastic player. I don't expect him to stay there for long. That's the honest truth. I really don't.
Sure, absolutely. Well, listen, Courtney, it's been fantastic hearing your analysis. There are a lot of other Africans to watch out there. We know that Kalidou Koulibaly's moved to the Saudi Pro League. We know that Hakim Ziyech is on his way to Galatasaray in Turkey. So lots of fantastic talent to look out for. Thank you for your analysis. And thank you to everyone who listens to this pod. Remember, we're Africa's biggest football bri. Let us know what you think. Leave a rating, leave a review, and we will look to bring you more sensational content. Courtney, I hope you have a good day, my friend. Big hug. Lots of love to you.
Thank you, Zayn. I wish you all the best.